Okay, welcome back. So hopefully you just watched the video on additive modeling. Now we're going to take a look at doing this exact same part with subtractive modeling. So subtractive modeling is kind of like you'd imagine this as like a sculptor would think of this. You're starting off with a big block and you're cutting out the pieces that you don't need from there. So this particular piece is probably not the piece you'd want to make with subtractive modeling. It certainly can be done, but it definitely lends itself more to additive modeling to me. But let's go ahead and take a look at how we would do that with subtractive modeling. So we're going to go ahead and create our new part, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this so I know what it is. Always a good idea. I don't want to see Part Studio 1, Part Studio 2. So this case, I'm going to draw basically a big rectangle or a big box that covers this whole thing. And so before we talked about how it's 6 units tall, I believe it's 5 units wide. And then if we look back at the shape here, I believe it's 8 units across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So 6 tall, 5 wide, 8 across. And I'm going to try to make it in that same orientation. So I'm going to start, let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm going to start by drawing on the bottom of this. So it's going to be an 8 by 5 rectangle. And then we'll build it up from there. So when I do my sketch, I'm going to go on this, what's called the top, but I'm going to actually treat that plane as the bottom. And just like last time, I like to use this center point rectangle because it lets me center my shapes. There's no reason you have to, but I always encourage you to start your sketch at the origin. So whether you're using a center point rectangle that's centered at the origin, or a 2-point rectangle where one of the corners is the origin. Those are really good strategies to use. So we said that it had to be 8 wide and 5 deep. You'll notice it turned entirely black. That means it's all dimensioned. There's no missing information that we need to add. And then we can go ahead and click on the extrude button. One thing I do want you to notice here, do you see how it says Shift E? That is your keyboard shortcut. So without even clicking on anything, if I hit Shift E, it's automatically going to go into that extrude option. And most of these have some sort of a shortcut. Revolve apparently doesn't, but some of the other ones do. Fillet is Shift F. Chamfer doesn't have one, it looks like. I know there's a lot more in the sketching tools. So we're going to go, I think it was 6 tall, if I remember right from my picture. And what we've got here is the block, like there's nothing cut out of it yet. So now we've got to go ahead and remove different chunks. And this is where we got to think about this and why I'm saying this part's maybe not the best. The first thing I want to do is I want to remove this little corner here that's not there. All right, do you see that? So I'm looking at how tall this part is and then how long this part is. And so if I go into here, I'm basically going to cut this part out. It's 1, 2, 3 units tall and then 1, 2 units wide. So in that case, I might sketch on this side. And again, I like to turn it. You don't have to. I'm sure most of you won't. I'm going to use a corner rectangle. And like we said, it's got to be, it's got to be 3 units tall and 2 units wide. And completely black means I've constrained it all the way. Now here's the difference. When I want to extrude this, we're still just using extrude. We're not making anything crazy right now. I don't want to be on add. I want to be on remove because I'm taking away from this. And you'll see how it's cutting away. At this point, I've got some options. I could just go ahead and put in a distance. I know it's 8 units long, so if I put in 8, it's going to go all the way through. I could just grab it and pull it all the way through. The best way, though, is to change right here. It says blind right now. Blind means go a certain distance without any regard for what's there. But you've got lots of options. The one we're going to want is through all. All that's going to do is just automatically cut everything away. And that one's really nice because if I later come back and decide that, I didn't make that part right. I actually made it in, I needed to make it bigger. Each block, each of those grids was maybe 2 inches and I didn't make it big enough. Then I'd have to come back and change that dimension. But since I just put through all, I don't need to change that one at all. It's always just going to go through all no matter what it is. So we've got that. Now we're looking at this part and I've got to cut this middle section out, right? And so I can go back to my view here, and this one looks like it's 4 units wide and 2 units deep. And so I'll do the same thing. I could sketch here, or I could sketch on the bottom. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to do my sketching right. I'm going to do it right here. And then I'll turn it to the top so I can look at it a little bit better. And I'm gonna use a rectangle. This one I'm just gonna use a corner rectangle, but look at where it's highlighting automatically for me. I can use those to help me out. You see those lines are black already. Now I just need to know this. This one I think was 4. And you'll notice it's still blue. So at this point, what you can look at here is if I were to drag some of these lines, do you see how this part still moves side to side? I need it in the middle, or specifically, I need it 2 units from either end. So when I go back, I can now use my dimension tool. We talked about that in the sketching video, the dimension tool, and I can add that in. And I know that needs to be 2, and you'll see it turns completely black. Now, if I had tried to add this dimension in, it's automatically saying it's 2 inches, and it actually won't let me put 3. It complains, it turns everything red. But if I leave it as 2, it doesn't like that either, but it is 2. So it says sketch could not be solved. So it's giving me saying this is a problem here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. If you do put it in and it's saying like it's, hey, this is automatically a number already, then just telling you that sketch doesn't need to be there. That dimension doesn't need to be there. Oop, restore. Don't hit the X. So we want to leave that in there. Now we'll take that and we'll extrude our sketch. This one asked me to click on the sketch here. And again, I want to cut away. So I don't want add, I want remove. That looks like it went in the right direction. And again, I'm going to go through all. Cut that out of the middle there. Okay, so that's that. Then the last thing I need to do is cut away these little corners there and there. Right? So I'm going to maybe sketch on this face. By the way, just a little shortcut, if you right click right on a face, you get a lot of options here. One of them is new sketch right towards the top. So I'm going to sketch right there. And now I want to cut these away. And so these just kind of get cut away in the same little area as this part is. So it's 3 tall, 2 wide. And so I'm just basically cutting this section away. So I can use my rectangle. And you'll notice there it automatically turned black because I started at a corner I knew and I ended at a corner I knew. And I can do 2 sketches in one thing. That's no problem. You'll notice that one's fully constrained as well. You could certainly do them as multiple sketches if you wanted to. And then I'll just go ahead and extrude those 2, that one and that one. And again, I want to remove and I want to go through all. And so there you see I've gotten those taken away. And you'll see it's taking both of those sketches away. And there's my part modeled with subtractive modeling. Now, for this particular part, subtractive modeling is probably not the best way. It's really, you can kind of see it's made up of the middle section and then these 2 edges. Additive modeling makes a lot of sense to build it up from little pieces. But subtractive modeling does work as well. So something you can think about and use a strategy that makes the most sense in that particular case.